Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Caveman Chemistry. Today, we'll be making mead. The ingredients you'll need consist of yeast, which can be found at the supermarket in the baking section, V8 and honey, which serve as the food and flavor for your mead, and a 2-liter bottle in which your mead will ferment. The first step in making your mead is pouring the honey into the 2-liter. Depending on how dry or sweet you want your mead to be is dependent on how much honey you put into the bottom of your 2-liter bottle. My last batch of mead was a sweet mead, so I think I'm going to use less honey this time and attempt to make a dry mead. In order to add flavor to your mead, you'll want to use a juice or sugary content which is comprised of fruit or vegetables. In my case, I'll be using V8. Once again, depending on how much flavor you want, is how much you choose to add. In this case, I'm going to add the entire can. Next, you will fill your mead bottle with water, about 3/4 of the way full. After filling the bottle, this is about how much water you'll want. A little bit less or more will be dependent on the size of your bottle, but you want to leave room at the top. One of the last steps is activating your yeast. This should be done in a separate container. Pour the yeast into a warm water, as the warmer water helps to activate the yeast quicker. You want to stir them up in order to wake them. You should wait until a froth starts to build on top of the cup. At that point, the yeast will be awake and we'll proceed to add them into our mead. Once you are able to activate your yeast and wake them up, you will then pour it into the 2-liter. The amount is less important as there's many yeast within the activated. I've used only about half. As you can see, they start to activate and eat the food supply within the bottle immediately. Now that all your ingredients are within the 2-liter, you can cap it and take it wherever you need be. As it sits over time, there will start to become layers within the bottle. The honey being on the bottom, then the V8 juice, and then the water and yeast within the rest of the concoction. The most important part to remember about your yeast is that in the early stages, primarily the first week, it is important to burp your bottle at least 3 times a day. If you fail to do so, the bottle will expand and ultimately pop, making a mess wherever you place it. The entire process of the mead should take roughly 2 to 3 weeks as the alcohol content increases. Ultimately, the alcohol content will become too high and the yeast will die. At that point, the mead process is over and you may siphon the mead into a separate container. Here's a batch of mead I have already created. This one sits at about the 7% alcohol range and is quite good. It was made with more honey and a spicy V8 juice to add a good flavor. As it was just mixed, it's still murky, but as you can see, sediment will fall to the bottom of the mead and the top will become clear as the alcohol content increases. This mead tastes like a spicy or sweet white wine and is quite delicious. In order to calculate the alcohol content, weigh your mead at the beginning of the process as well as at the end of the process, and then perform a stoichiometry plot. Thank you for watching this episode of Caveman Chemistry on mead. I hope you learned a lot and your mead turns out tasty and alcoholic. Stay thirsty, my friends.